oh my God, I will be so happy when this nonsense election is over with. I mean, what is it like? I get like probably 20 texts a day from these guys, and emails, and on and on and on. I will be absolutely thrilled. I don't care who wins. I will just be thrilled that this madness will be over with. Speaking of, for those of you who've been wondering, because I get DMs on this, and I get, from other platforms and such, so I'm just going to answer this question. No, I'm not going to be voting for the orange guy. Now, I don't care about Koala either. I'm not going to vote for her either. I mean, I don't consider her, and I've been very clear about this, I don't even consider her to be a serious candidate. But no, I'm not going to be voting for Trump. As far as I'm concerned, it's like there's just too many deal breakers. And this idea that, well, vote for the lesser two, I'm not doing that. Like, you're going to have to come to the table with something a lot better than that. I would just as soon see the country turn into a giant wasteland than something like this, some like weird morphodite nonsense country where everybody thinks everything is great, but it's really not. As you know, I've been talking about this today, and one of my videos, if you go back and look at it, it's called an outtake. The audio has been shut off on it, and it's been shut off because, well, I talked about some serious topics, and there's no violation there, but they can say, well, we can get rid of the audio. They can't really get rid of the video because there isn't a violation. TikTok seems to be just about as controlled as X is, or any of the other platforms for that matter. I mean, like that's the trick, right? With platforms. This is, like I've said for a long time, if you follow my work at all, you know that I don't consider social media a business model. Unless you own the platform, I don't consider it a business model. And the reason I don't is for reasons just like this. All you have to do is just say something that the platform doesn't like, and they deplatform you. And there's just too many examples of this. There's just, like tens of thousands of examples of things like this, where it's, oh, somebody said something that when it went against their narrative. Yeah, it's just kind of how this stuff works, and it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. They will never allow a real, true, free speech platform. That will never happen. Like for those of you Americans, for example, my fellow Americans who cherish the ideal of free speech, the right to freedom of speech. Yeah, no platform will ever agree to that, because then you could challenge their platform, or you could challenge their money or their investments. There's just too many things that go wrong with it. And like for example, the content I cover for the most part is usually the dollar, which is I go right for the throat, and that's exactly right. It's the people who control the dollar, they also control, of course, if you control the dollar, you control everything, and which is what my channel is dedicated to, explaining how that works, the mechanism. I have hundreds of videos of me explaining this stuff. So where am I going with all this as far as the election nonsense is concerned? My terms are steep. If somebody wants me to vote for their candidate, the candidate's got to come to the table with something serious, like, okay, well, anybody with dual citizenship gets kicked out of government immediately, like fired instantly. You have dual citizenship. As far as I'm concerned, you have dual loyalties, and you can't serve two masters. You can't serve the American people and whatever other country that you have dual citizenship to. So no, you have some place to go if you screw the country up. Americans do not. The vast majority of Americans have nowhere to go after. If the U.S. has a bunch of problems, you're stuck here, Americans. You don't get to go, well, no, I can escape and go to some other country. Other countries, if the U.S. dollar goes away, I've been very clear about this, and I've explained this in the past, and I know a bunch of you don't want to hear this, but it's the truth. You will be asked to leave. You will be deported. All of you living abroad who are like, oh, everything's great. I'm living on $26 a day in Thailand or something like that. Yeah, if the U.S. dollar collapses, you will be asked to leave. They are not going to have you stay around there taking jobs up from their people, because they actually care about their people, unlike Americans. I call it like I see it. And that's the reality. So no, most Americans will be asked to leave immediately, or if not, bodily deported if necessary. They don't want you going into their countries because they want to keep their countries their countries. They, because other countries aren't as, they're not as concerned about being called racist. They're just not. They don't care. I mean, you think anybody in Asia cares about that? Do you think Indians care about that? I'm not picking on Indians. I mean, do you think they care? They still have a caste system. They don't care. Okay? So, I mean, anybody out there who thinks otherwise, like, no. So, I mean, is Orange Man going to do that? Is Trump going to do that? No, of course not. He's not going to fire all the dual passport people. Is he going to get rid of the idea of qualified immunity for pigs? No. I mean, that's a deal breaker for me. That tells me if your pigs have to have qualified immunity because they're violating so many laws to do their job, that means that you are a shitty leader. That's what it means. It means you are a shit leader, because you have to have people that are required to have immunity to do their job, because what they're going to do is probably something that you know, you've heard it said before, right? If a government wants to take away, you know, your arms, then it's probably because they intend on doing something to you that you wouldn't want and you would arm yourself against. Yeah? So, yeah, I mean, like, this is just reality. So if you need to have, if your people need to have, if your people are so chicken shit that they have to have immunity, then they're just fakes, as far as I'm concerned. This applies to, I mean, feel free, by the way, all of you in uniform, all those costume wearers out there. This is all personal, by the way. I would tell you this to your face. You know, it's like, oh, well, you know, like a tough guy. No. I would tell you this just if you're one-on-one in front of me. I would just talk to you the same way I'm talking to you right now. You need to, like, I'm the one convicting you of this. I'm straight telling you this kind of stuff. Well, no, Axel, you don't understand. No, I do understand. I do understand that there's not supposed to be anywhere near the amount of laws that this country has. Certainly not 80 million of them. And that's an estimate, because we don't even know how many laws we have. And you blindly enforcing everything? No. Who was responsible for all the unaliving, the mass unaliving, the democide that took place in China? Mao? Or the guys who followed all those orders? Yeah. The guys who followed all the orders, that's who's responsible. Okay, same thing with Mustache Guy. Same thing with Stalin. Same thing with every dictator who's ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. That's reality. So, no, a lot of you are drawn to these jobs where it's like, oh, I get to hurt people because it's the law. You should probably consider who you are at that point, because if you're like that, I mean, that is an NPC, by the way. That is the definition of an NPC, as far as I'm concerned. No different than a border collie trying to herd sheep. We already talked about that. But yeah, I mean. So, I mean, as I just hurl insults, like, randomly to, like, all Americans here, I mean, just, again, if the boot fits, right? So, no, I will not be voting for any one of these freaking clowns, dude. I so don't care about any of their nonsense, and they have not made a compelling case as to why I should actually wake up early and go stand in line for 4 hours to vote for one of these clowns that is not going to do anything for that has made it very clear that the American people are somewhere like maybe a distant 50th or 60th on the list. But there's a whole bunch of other countries. Not one of them will cut off foreign aid. Not one. Not one of them will end all these nonsense wars. Not one of them will deport all the illegals. You know, it's not going to happen. Oh no, Trump said no. I don't care what Trump said. I mean, like, there's logistics involved here. You know, I mean, is he going to put a bounty on all of them? Nope. Probably not. That would be wildly unpopular, and he doesn't have the stomach for that. He doesn't. He doesn't have the hairstyle for that, dude. Look at his hairstyle. Christ, I mean, he can't. Dude, no. I mean, the dude screams. Just his whole existence exudes the whole idea of law and order. Of course, most people don't bother to ask the question of, like, whose law and whose order, because, you know, the founders of our country would be appalled at everything, and they're like, oh, but he's got Ron Paul now and Elon Musk. Ron Paul will be the first one ejected from it. You know, I mean, just like he's done in the past. You know, he got rid of Bannon and others. Like, he has no track record of keeping anybody decent around. So, I mean, hey, if you want to try and make a case otherwise, you know, you can feel free to stitch the video and explain where I'm wrong. But I don't know. I mean, I feel I reserve the right to cross-examine, and most people can't handle the cross-examination.